So after steamrolling through this game all this week, I figured I'd sit down and take a moment to actually talk about it for a little bit, and I guess kind of give a low-key review on it, if you will. Now, for starters, I want to say that everybody on the internet who's been memeing this game to Mars and back, I really hope that after it came out that everybody either took a chance to sit down and actually play it, or at the very least watched, a full playthrough on YouTube or Twitch or something like that, so they could have a better understanding of the story and the characters and that kind of thing. Because a lot of people, when the leaks happened, were getting a lot of things wrong. There was a lot of assumptions, and it just seemed like a lot of inaccurate information. I guess they just convinced themselves that this is just going to be, another fun little romp in the woods of Joel and Ellie, and didn't take the moment to consider that, this is several years in the future. There could be a lot more dense thematic elements in this game. There could be a lot more, mature subject matter that just kind of wasn't present in the original, because the original, you're basically this dude with an 11-year-old tag-along, And I think that took a lot of people by surprise. And they initially dismissed the whole thing after the leaks because, so-and-so dies and this, that, and the other. And, people just didn't take a moment to think about the whole picture. They're just looking at simply, these people died and it upset me. But the way I see it, this is just simply the second installment of the franchise. It's not like, the 9th sequel. We got George R.R. Martin coming in here and taking over. It was a second installment. So there were many things that they could do. They weren't beholden to a sort of a rigid structure, We don't have really an established guideline for this. We have one game. And so if they want to try something else with the second game, then I feel like they're much more at liberty to do that than, say, for instance, we have 5 games, and then all of a sudden they stepped out and did something really bonkers. And it kind of reminded me of a situation with like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And back in that day, everybody just absolutely threw a fit because, oh, God forbid, it didn't have Michael Myers in it. They actually had a really cool idea with Halloween 3. The directors had a decent idea. The writing was decent. In my opinion, it is the best Halloween sequel out of all that, original cluster before Rob Zombie basically stepped in and rebooted the whole thing. But I felt like it was a phenomenal, just, great movie. It was just a great all-around movie. The Last of Us Part 2 could also suffer from that same treatment, because many people already had their mind made up about the game before even experiencing it. I was already highly anticipating this game because the first one was so dang good. The storytelling was exceptional, the character development was amazing, the gameplay was decent as well, and the environments were well thought out and perfectly executed. When the initial trailer for Last of Us Part 2 dropped, I was already all in. However, I was not planning on getting the game on day one, because I don't usually buy games day one. My excitement turned to trepidation 6 weeks ago when the leaks happened. At that point, I made the conscious decision to mute everything on all social media platforms. I wanted to have as blind experience as I could going in. And I'm glad to admit that my efforts were successful, as I did not witness one single spoiler for the game. With the nature of the situation being as sensitive as it was, the spoilers basically showed their hand. I felt very compelled at that point to get the game on day one just to solidify the blind play attempts. So last Friday morning I went to Walmart and got the game, basically knowing nothing at all about what I was to experience. What I found very interesting on this game is the game has 2 protagonists and their stories intertwine, kind of like Grand Theft Auto 5. You experience moments first as Ellie, and then you experience somewhat those same moments, but from another perspective as Abby. So we come to find out that Abby was actually part of the hospital installation from the end of The Last of Us, and Ellie and Joel go in and basically blow everybody away. So because of that, Abby basically has an axe to grind now and is seeking revenge for that particular situation. She finds out where Ellie and Joel's group is, and then sets out to seek her revenge. The main story of Last of Us 2 begins with Ellie and Abby coming face to face, and one of the members of Ellie's settlements dying to the hands of Abby, as Ellie has to watch. So there are 2 motives now. Motive 1 is playing as Ellie to avenge the death that she had to witness, And motive 2 is Abby is coming to terms with the fact that the military installation that she is a part of could possibly be on the wrong side of a battle they are waging with a local indigenous tribe, for lack of better words. So after the initial confrontation, the two protagonists go their separate ways, and you are now playing as Ellie, seeking revenge. The town sets up provisions and allows a few people to go as well. Ellie and Dina go alone, and then meet up with 2 others later on. The game is set up with you playing 3 days in Seattle as Ellie, and then those same 3 days in Seattle as Abby. Then what I like to consider a swerve ending. Then a chapter in Santa Barbara, California as Abby, and then a chapter there as Ellie as well. And then the actual ending. Kind of reminiscent to the movie Memento. So now that we had the story out of the way, the game offered several moments of just true joy while playing. First of all, the birthday flashback to the dinosaur museum, which is one of those things where I was just so elated while playing a game. It was totally a nice, magical, comforting moment in gaming media. And also the part where Abby has to literally confront her fear of heights as she takes a shortcut to the hospital was another truly breathtaking moment in gaming. And even though it was a tense moment, I still found it extremely engaging on how the writing was able to add realistic quips and reactions.
What's going on between you and your friend Owen?
Oh my god, Lev, now?
It seemed really awkward.
Just go!
The fact that you could also, albeit very limitedly, explore the Seattle Aquarium was also pretty cool. So as you can see, I'm definitely a sucker for exploration in games. And one of my favorite things in post-apocalyptic games is seeing what types of cool holdouts there are. And this one had the football stadium, which is a very nice touch and kind of reminiscent to the Red Sox stadium in Fallout 4. And the fact that Ellie's main hub is a movie theater was also pretty cool. And when times are slow, you can sit down and strum a guitar, and there are several selections that you can choose from. This game also offered some rather tense moments of discomfort as well. Probably one of the most uncomfortable moments for me was when you first meet the children for the first time, and the dudes are literally hammering on the girl's arm. It was a really tense moment. I had to look away. It was really gruesome. Also, while playing the game, you really start to empathize for Abby and get drawn into her struggle of seeking truth and questioning her role in the suffering of so many people. I was genuinely seeing myself align closer to her than that of Ellie. There were times I'm thinking, just give me a gun, I'll shoot Ellie and end this all. But it's not that easy. See, playing as Abby, there is one moment of payoff where you can fight Ellie, but unfortunately you do not have any weapons for that. So while Ellie is shooting at you with every weapon of her arsenal, all you can do is punch her and do other melee attacks. And later on, as Ellie, you can confront Abby. But again, in this instance, all Ellie has are melee weapons at her disposal. After completing the game, I went back and watched some YouTube videos on the leaks and Fallout, and it seemed everyone was so hung up on this new character that kills Ellie's allies and now I have to take control of this monster. What was Naughty Dog thinking? I don't want to play as this heinous person. But after playing her story, again, I came away only emboldened in my feeling that Ellie was a true monster. So many times she could stop and just enjoy her life, but she had to just keep going and keep going. She literally cast everything away just to seek revenge. And you as a player have to ask yourself, was it worth it? I felt like it wasn't. So after playing 3 days as Abby, you literally so wrapped up in her story, you only want to put Ellie down like a sick dog behind a barn. Now I want to take a moment to give special acknowledgement on the soundtrack, as it was masterfully executed and curated as well. Composed by Gustavo and Mac, in addition to various selections chosen by others, the audio cues evoke such strong feelings at certain parts. Whether it be brooding, thumping beat during an uncomfortable situation, or whether it be a nice song during a tender moment. The songs and audio all work so well every moment in the game. Now the weapons in the game aren't really all that much to write home about, but that's kind of par for the course for any of these Naughty Dog cinematic titles. They're serviceable and get the job done and do what is needed, but it's nothing like Borderlands. I think there were like 8 core weapons for the whole game. However, there were many workbenches all throughout where you can get modifications that upgrade your equipment. And there is a trophy tied to finding every workbench in the game. And as an ancillary perk, one of my favorite parts of this game is as long as you have a completed manual save in the game save directory, you can go into any of the chapters or enemy encounters in the game. Once you're done, just reload your completed game and choose another. It's a nice perk that more games should incorporate. My only complaint is I just wish you didn't have to reload the save game to get back to all the levels again. It would just be nice if it was permanently in the options where you could just cycle through them at your own, convenience. Do I recommend this game? The answer is most definitely. If you have a PlayStation 4, definitely seek this game out and play it. It's an amazing experience from front to back, and all the expectations you had will very quickly subside once you actually start digging in and actually identifying with the characters and seeing where they're coming from and understand their background and that kind of thing. I know that initially there were many complaints of the whole get woke, go broke, thing, but after actually playing the game, I just don't really see any very obviously offensive, overt, get woke sentiments in this game. To be honest, I don't really notice a lot of that in most of this stuff. Everybody's throwing a fit about Star Wars. I didn't notice any just outright offensive things in the new Star Wars either. I would say don't give in to all the mass hysteria. That if you had any sort of interest in this game whatsoever, to go out and play it. And if you really enjoy the original, to go out and play it, because it's definitely a sequel. I mean, yeah, that there's some characters missing or what have you, but it's still definitely a sequel to the original. It has that same sort of thematic building, that same sort of character, arc. So I would say definitely go out and check it out if you're wanting a really compelling story to dig into. Overall, I think I put 23 hours into it, so it's not super, super long. It's also not super short because the very first time I played Silent Hill 2, I think I beat that in like 10 and a half hours. So it's not super short like that, but also it's not super long. But I think 23 hours is just about right. So if you have, a decent weekend, you can definitely carve it out in a weekend. So you can go and give it a try. And again, I highly recommend it. I would personally probably give it a 9 out of 10. I wouldn't say it's necessarily perfect. It's no Breath of the Wild, that's for sure. But it's close enough. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. So thanks for watching and peace out.